Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Unlearn with Bianca. On this podcast, we explore everything around self healing, health, personal growth, the mind body connection, relationships, and more. In each episode, I'm here to inspire you, to educate you, and to challenge you so that you can deepen the connection you have with the most important person in your life, that is yourself. Hello, everyone. It has been a hot minute since my last episode. Thank you all for coming back after a little mini hiatus. 1 week turned into 2 weeks, turned into 3 weeks, and then before we know it, it's been a month. But I have been traveling back to New Zealand, and as you can imagine, just lots of changes, moving through time zones. I stopped off in Bangkok on the way home, and then straight back into work, and I've had a really busy, in a good way, month for work. So I have just been prioritizing and getting stuck into all the things I need to do. This last month, though, has really reminded me of how important it is to have my morning routines and really set myself up for the day, do my gratitude, my nervous system practices, my scripting, my visualization, because it has been in the last month that hasn't been as regular as it usually is. And the few times that I did sit down to record a podcast, I literally just sat there twiddling my thumbs, like nothing was coming to me. And that's because I hadn't been creating the space, as I said, in the mornings and my routines that I usually do, which really, on hindsight, I can see now helps flow my creativity, helps things drop in. So that was a real big wake up call for me, remembering how important space is. Because as I know, logically, as I teach, when we are dipping into that stress response for a period of time, our creative brain is not prioritized. It goes on the back burner, and it's really hard to be creative, come up with new ideas, have things pop in. That really takes space. So, on that realization, I decided to follow that one realization and give you guys today a list of things that I have learned in 2025 that I've just been reflecting on in the last few weeks as we wrap up this year. It's crazy how fast this year's gone, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who feels that. I just feel like, is it because I'm getting older? I don't know. Is it relative to the time and the years I've spent on this planet? I still can't figure it out. But I'm going to reflect on, like I said, on things that I've learned. And after listening to this episode, I really encourage you to do the same, because we don't spend enough time celebrating our learnings, our lessons, even if they're just small insights, even if it's just one new choice. These are things that we need to be celebrating so that our brain can find more things to celebrate in the year ahead. So let's get straight into it, guys. Okay, number one, the first thing I have learned recently, finally, I have realized the importance of embracing seasons. Now, I'm talking specifically weather seasons, but I think this whole idea extends into so many different areas in our life. So, as most of you know who listen consistently, I have been in the UK in the UK for 4.5 months. Before that, through Asia. I've been away from New Zealand for like 6 months, and I got back a few weeks ago. So, I left the Northern Hemisphere. It was very dark at like 4 p.m. And then I've been thrusted into summer and late nights. And I found it really discombobulating, to be honest, really, really strange coming back also through another time zone in the middle. But going from the midst of winter, the depths of winter, into summer, because for the first time ever, I actually found myself embracing and really leaning into winter and the cooler weather and the darkness, which was interesting because it's not something I have enjoyed up until this point. I've never really liked winter. I think part of it is because I know this is a belief, but I naturally run cold. Anyone that knows me, if you ask them to describe me, they would probably say that in the top three or 3 or 4 things about me. They'd be like, she doesn't do the cold. It takes a lot of energy for me to stay warm. I feel like after a cold winter, my nervous system, my shoulders are like right up. It just takes a lot of energy for my body. But that aside, I have been someone over the years that's really, especially the last few years, has really chased the sun, because I have had the privilege and the freedom to do that with my work. When I've been in a winter in New Zealand, I have just wished it away. I've been like, get me to the other side of this winter. I'm over this winter. I hate the winter. all that negative talk about the season, that ultimately we can't change the weather. So it's like I spent a lot of energy resisting it. But as I said, for the first time in a long time, probably forever, I found myself really leaning into the cooler season. And I think that has something to do with the way that I have shifted my internal narrative around slowing down and what it means to move through seasons in life. Because there's a bigger almost story at play when we're constantly resisting certain seasons. When we're resisting winter, it's like we're resisting going inward, we're resisting slowing down, we're resisting discomfort and constantly seeking the highs. And I think that also reflects into the way that we live. We're constantly encouraged to be productive, to never slow down. And a lot of people say to me, when I do slow down, I don't know how to slow down. I don't know how to be with that. It actually feels unsafe. The seasons also feed into this idea that life in itself has seasons, the seasons of expansion and contraction. And unless we're going through the contraction or the inward period, we don't really register how good it can be when we're in the expansion period. It's the same with women and their menstrual cycle. We're going through like 4 seasons a month. So I have really leant in to this whole idea around seasons in the last few years. And I think that really reflected in the way that I actually wanted the winter. I was really leaning into it. I was enjoying it. It wasn't to be. Came back to New Zealand, appreciating the warm weather as well. But that was just an interesting insight, because I'm learning that it is really healthy to embrace the seasons, and it can be really reflective with our own seasons and what's going on internally. And that lesson was very philosophical. Okay, number 2. The second lesson or learning I really learnt even deeper this year has been around trusting life and letting go of needing to control every detail. I find it so interesting that some of the most out of control experiences we can have in life, for me, losing my mum, going through chronic illness, for a lot of my clients, it's going through a health crisis, they can actually lead us on the other side to regaining even more trust in life. Initially, I think we can lose trust in life, but I truly believe my trust in life and my letting go muscle, which I've built over time, has only come because sometimes I was forced to let go. And once I'd moved through a really difficult time and realized that I got through it, okay, I came out the other side, then I realized that letting go doesn't have to be so scary. And I've really taken this idea, this mindset, and built this muscle consistently by all of my nervous system practices, by looking at my thoughts, by looking at the way I approach things. I've really taken this into how I choose to live my life. Before I left to go overseas in the middle of the year, naturally everyone was asking me, like, what are you doing? What's the plan? How long are you away for? And to be honest, I didn't know, which seems crazy because I went to the other side of the world by myself. I didn't know how long I was going to be away for. I knew the limit of how long I could stay away for, but I wasn't sure. I had this gut feeling to go overseas, and a lot of my learning has been to trust my own voice despite how it appears to everybody else, my choices. In the past, that would have been really difficult for me to do because I would have come up with a lot of things that I could be doing instead. But now I've really, again, built that muscle to listen to my intuition. And especially in the last year or two, my intuition is getting stronger and stronger. And I'm really starting to listen to it more. And then it's sort of like a cycle. It gets stronger when you listen to it. So I decided to go overseas, first of all, via Asia. In Asia, I reconnected with a man that I had met at a business networking event in Auckland. And there was the first sign that I was on the right track, because when we caught up, there were some opportunities presented to me to help with some workplace wellbeing workshops back in New Zealand. That was great, very unexpected, and led into new opportunities. And then I went to further afield to London, back to the UK. I was actually house sitting. I had accommodation for a month, and then I wasn't sure what I was going to do after. And every time I took a leap of faith, the next thing would appear. I ended up having to not pay rent for close to 5 months because I had these amazing house sitting opportunities for months at a time. And I really also learned that you don't need to live on much. Like, it doesn't, like, we don't need a lot of the stuff that we feel like we need, we don't actually need. Like, if I can live out of a few suitcases for that long, anyone can do it. But anyway, I had these house sitting opportunities. I loved being in a new space, meeting new people, reconnecting with people. I found a co-working space. I had a lot of uh, instances where I would meet someone and that would just spark something that I've been thinking about. I even had this one thing happen when I was in a yoga class. I was the last person to leave the studio because I had a phone call, and the teacher was talking on the phone about having chronic pain. So I was able to wait around, and then after that I explained what I do and how I help people. And since then, this lady had gone on to do coaching with me, and she's now completely changed her life. So I had so many serendipitous meetings. And I've also learned that it's a cycle, because the more you have those experiences, the more you trust that you're on the right path, and then they happen more. And it's just, yeah, it sort of feeds that confidence that you have in yourself. Now, don't get me wrong, there's always tough times, especially if I'm traveling solo or in a new environment. But I think the positives completely outweigh the negatives. And life is for living, life is for taking opportunity. So that is something that I really reflected on. I stayed in London longer than I initially thought I would, just because everything was just working out well. And I actually stayed for the Lightning Process Trauma Conference, which was on in October. And that was just amazing to reconnect with practitioners, but also to really get stuck into some new information and learn more about trauma, its impacts on the body, which I'm obviously very passionate about. But just seeing Phil, who's one of my teachers, Dr. Phil Parker, in action again and doing a lot of healing work, helping people access their own wisdom from ancestors to resolve trauma from the past, like all these really powerful processes. It was just so great that I could be there to see that, because it really sparked something up again in me and reminded me of how important the work I do is and how passionate I am about it. But anyway, back to this letting go idea. What I really took from, especially, it sounds funny, but especially the accommodation thing, it all worked out for me so well. I lean into this mindset of, like, if I can let go in one area, I can take that energy and I can take that knowing and that conviction that everything will be all right, and I can start thinking about how that would look in other areas. So I can take that into my finances. How would it look if I really trusted? What sort of things would I be doing if I trusted money was coming? What sort of things would I be doing if I trusted I was in my dream relationship, and let go of timelines around that? So just really connecting to the future me as well, who's built that muscle even further. that's been really beneficial for me to be journaling on and thinking about too. And one more thing I want to say on letting go, because I see it a lot with my clients. I'm convinced that living a life in alignment with who you are, not with what everyone else wants you to be, with who you are innately, will skyrocket your health faster than anything else. Meaning taking steps to let go of what you know no longer serves you, whether it be a friendship, whether it be some family connection you've been trying to maintain, it's all been one sided, whether it be a relationship, a job, so many different things. I have seen my clients do this. I frequently see it. Just small changes in their life of what they're no longer willing to carry forward into the future, and their health just instantly is impacted in a positive way. Do not underestimate the power of allowing yourself to let go and trust that everything is working for you. I will say it again, everything is working for you. Even the lessons, even the learnings. Eventually, one day, it may just all make sense. Until then, do your best to be present and let go of having to have it all figured out. Like, I'm 33, I have no house, don't have kids, currently not in a relationship, but I'm really happy. I'm really content. And that has been because I've had to focus on my own path and let go of the bullshit that is not on my journey. The next lesson and learning that's been quite prevalent for me this year is just really working on these final few over responsibility tendencies that I tend to have, that have been habits that have come from previous years in the past. There have been so many neural pathways that I have rewired in my time, and I'm proud of all the efforts that I've put in over the years. But this tendency to carry responsibility when it's not mine, this is just one that sort of sticks around. It's kind of like my weakness, the one I dip into when I'm maybe under a bit more stress, or I just are a bit distracted. And I was talking to an amazing, I call her a mentor of mine, who I'm going to be having on the podcast soon. You guys are not going to want to miss this exclusive episode. She is a spiritual psychic medium, so I'm very looking forward to this. But she was saying one thing to me about responsibility, and a way to know if you're carrying too much responsibility is if you're constantly finding yourself sighing. That big sigh. I thought about it and I'm like, that's so true, because a sigh is usually followed by that fatigue. It's usually followed by, why do I have to do this? Why is this my responsibility? We know that kind of whole energy of heaviness. I took that tip and I've been keeping an eye. Anytime I sigh, it's a choice point for me to say, is this something I need to do because it's just part of life? Or is this something I have a choice in and I'm just out of habit and automation taking responsibility, which I don't need to be doing anymore? So, for example, it could be me even thinking that I need to give something groundbreaking on this podcast and say something that hasn't been said, or like do a podcast for a certain length of time. That would be over responsibility because then I'm just putting more pressure on myself. Or what I've found myself doing from time to time, especially in a business context, is thinking, what do other people want to hear? What will they find interesting? Rather than actually just doing what inspires me and what I find interesting. Because naturally, when we're inspired and we share on something, that's going to be felt on the other side. Other over responsibility patterns can be thinking we need to solve other people's problems, which really limits them from coming up with a solution for themselves. And it actually undermines other people from having the ability to move through something themselves, and holding other people's emotions. I think for me personally, like, I've really reflected just in terms of what I do for work and who I am naturally, the qualities I bring, and what I've moved through in the last few years. I think that's just been something I've really gotten good at is processing emotions, holding emotions. So just getting curious and again, just looking at my choice points around what's mine to carry and what's not. And instantly, when I do look at my choice points and I decide not to take something further that's not mine, my body responds. My body is lighter. I can feel open. I have fun with it. I enjoy the process. So for me, this is really something I continue to work on. But this year, I do feel like I am heading in the right direction. And here's the thing I've learned that I will pass on. I'm responsible for what I say and not for how people necessarily receive it. I'm responsible for my part, but not for carrying the weight of everyone else's experience. So if you need to hear that, please take that on, say it as an affirmation, because that has helped me a lot. Alrighty, I think we're at number 4. The next thing that I have learnt this year is how important it is to do things without an outcome, to do things that are not considered productive. That is just as healing and just as good for us as something that we would typically see as productive or regimented or routine based. I realize the importance of this because for the last 5 months, I haven't been to a dance class as I was overseas and I didn't make much of an effort. And I hadn't been to a pole dancing class. And I missed the feeling that these things gave me so much more than I anticipated. So much so that I've signed up to a dance class tomorrow to get back into it. Yes, the physical elements of feeling more free in my body, of feeling more mobile, which is hugely beneficial for our nervous system state. But even more so, I really missed the feeling that comes with dancing in terms of the emotional and mental benefits that it brings. Especially for me, pole dancing has been, interestingly enough, very transformative in my life. I might have to just do a whole other episode on that. For a while there, I was a little bit like, oh, should I talk about this? But I think a lot of people have been quite interested. Dancing for me has really created a lot of mental freedom. It's really helped heal the relationship I've had with my body, and being seen in sensuality, which has nothing to do with sexuality. They're quite different things. It's more about the sensations in my body, my proprioception, so actually having awareness of where my body is in space and time. Dancing has done all of the above. And, I think I've said this before, but we do underestimate the healing that comes through creative pursuits such as singing, such as dancing, such as art, such as gardening, such as cooking. All of these things are very primal. They bring rhythm, they're really good for the nervous system. But yeah, having not danced for 6 months, I can feel it mentally. I feel just this lack of openness, basically. When our body feels more rigid, it also reflects in how we feel emotionally, if that makes sense. I've also learnt that often we wait to feel good again. When is life going to get easier again? When am I going to feel like I have joy again? What dancing taught me is like we can actively seek it by putting ourselves into these classes, doing these things that bring that energy out. Get bite sizes of that again if you're doing things that don't have any outcome, where you're doing things that make you feel alive. It's really about following aliveness. That's what it was for me. Everyone's going to have different things that they're into, of course. Rather than what I used to do, which was ask myself, what should I be doing? Especially in terms of exercise, where it would be gym, HIIT classes, what everyone else is doing. I started asking myself, what do I feel like doing? What makes me feel good? And the fact that I've missed dancing, then in this season of my life, I'm going to bring it back in again. Who knows? Maybe next season it will be boxing. But I really try and connect into like what I need more of. It's interesting how I actually got into dancing initially. Some of you guys will appreciate this. This was 2 years ago. I was really craving a change and I was really looking for ways to heal my body somatically, meaning through movement, finding that safety in my body. But it felt scary. I'm not going to lie. I was like, what can I do aside from the gym? Because everything else is a new environment. I'd seen this ad for pole dancing on Instagram, and I sort of looked at it thinking that would be a good way to stay strong and do something new, challenge myself. But at the same time, I was like, oh, that's never me. That will never be me. I could appreciate it as an art form, but I just did not see myself having the courage to do that, even from a strength perspective. And I also saw an ad for a gym challenge. This was over summer. And I had these two options. So both of these things that I saw really like sparked a little bit of interest. I had $300 to spend, and they were both the same price. Both challenges for 6 weeks or something, like one of those ones you pay up front for. And for some reason, quite funny that I look back, I asked my mum for a sign. Send me a sign. If I'm meant to do pole dancing, it's way out of my comfort zone, but send me 2 blue balloons. I know I didn't need to waste a sign for something so trivial, but there I was asking for my sign. I got on with my life. I think the challenges were about to kick off like a month from when I asked for the sign. Carried on. 2 weeks in, I didn't get any blue balloons, so I signed up to the gym challenge, got some new trainers, like was all ready for that. And then a week and a half after that, I remember it so clearly. I was at the viaduct in Auckland watching the All Blacks at some early hour, like 8 a.m. I can't remember why. And it was the last day before the challenge started. And I happened to just look up above the table, and there were 2 helium balloons from the night before, I assume, like 21st birthday balloons. 2 balloons just right above the table. And I was like, oh my gosh, I had to check the notes on my phone. What did I ask for? What time was it? It was the last day to sign up for this pole challenge. So I pulled out of the gym challenge, and then I signed up to the pole challenge with about 2 hours to go before they closed it. And I started the next day. And that's the sort of synchronicities that I've started listening to more often in my life. Anyway, circle right back to get to the point. It's all about allowing yourself to do things because they make you feel good. For no other reason other than that. Read the book, go to the pottery class, do the artwork, go to a movie with a friend. It's important we do things that make us feel good. And I tell my clients this as well, because if you've been around and around and around looking for solutions to a health issue and you're getting crickets and it's hard and it's like one thing after another, you naturally get in this mindset of pushing and forcing and always needing to do the next thing and being mentally on, finding a solution. And a lot of us operate like this in life. So don't forget that it is just as important to do things that make you feel present and playful and reconnect you with your inner child. So important. The next one, I've learned how important it is to get really clear on and honest on what I'm looking for in relationships moving forward. Up until this year, I sort of didn't give too much energy just because I didn't feel like I was at a place where I wanted to give it energy. And that in itself has been something else that I think is important, and I'm sure someone needs to hear it. If you are in a season of being single and working on yourself, and other people might be asking and questioning and checking in, it's okay to take that time. I'm so grateful that I've taken years to just get to know me again, who I am and what I want after what felt like I didn't know for a while after I went through so many life-altering changes. So, finally getting clear on the next few years, having that capacity to really say and own what is important to me. I've had lots of experiences in my life that have really helped me fine tune it is what is important to me. So don't feel like you're ever behind, because each experience is going to help you fine tune your values, or if it's a relationship, like what you're looking for, you get to know yourself more. And I'm finally really owning that and starting to see it like that and being seen fully in who I am so that whatever relationship I'm in the future is on that level. Remember, no one is better at being you than you. And when you are yourself, there is no competition. And that is something that I constantly am reminding myself. Finally, the last one for today. In 2025, I have learnt how beneficial it is to tidy up loops. Complete the loop. Is that the phrase? I'm not sure. If something takes under 5 minutes, just do it because you're saving your future self an extra task and more mental clutter, basically. So, from a nervous system perspective and a brain perspective, it's actually really beneficial as well. Like closing the loops. That's what I was going for. Closing the loops, doing the things that just take less than 5 minutes, like actually doing it. Because I would be a little bit guilty in the past of being like, I'll do that when I get back. That's not like a big deal. I'll finish that later. But we don't realize how many tabs are open when we're consistently putting things off, doing it when the next opportunity comes. When we've constantly got those unresolved thoughts or those tabs open, that can keep your amygdala, which is the brain's alarm system, more active. Completing things fully, even something small, it triggers dopamine, which is the neurotransmitter linked to motivation and reward. And that just helps with that feedback loop of doing something, reinforcing the behavior. You're more likely to take intentional small actions in the future. And as I've said before, the more we do something, the more we show up consistently, the stronger that brain pathway gets through neuroplasticity. That pathway becomes stronger. Eventually, that habit just becomes part of you. It just becomes automated. And that is me. I'm thinking about the identity of the person that completes things, small things, that is really organized and closing the loops. That's what they'll be doing. So, guys, that is me for today. A quick episode. It's nice to be back. I want to say, as we kind of wrap up this year, to all the people I've crossed paths with, actually to all of you listening as well, thank you for continuing to support me in whatever capacity. I've seen this quote quite a bit on Instagram lately. Not sure where it comes from, but it says, "What a privilege to be stressed about things you once wished for." And that is just a great reminder for us, especially as we head into the festive season, that perspective is important. And make sure you take time to really acknowledge your wins and your lessons and your learnings from the year, because you'll find that you have probably made a lot of headway and things that you are stressed about at one point in your life you would have been wishing and wanting so badly. I definitely relate to that one myself. And I'll also end by saying, do remember, as we are heading into this Christmas period, be kind to everyone. Just make sure you show lots of love and kindness to people that you cross paths with, because you never know what people are navigating behind closed doors. It's a beautiful time for so many people, but also a challenging one for so many other people. So, whatever this period means to you, I'm sending all my love, all my happiness to you, my good energy. I hope you have a beautiful break, and I'll see you next week.